Welcome to another deep dive. You guys gave us some really cool research to dig into this time, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, this one is pretty interesting. It's a paper from 2019 called Influence of Personality Traits and Moral Values on Employee Well-Being, Resilience, and Performance, a cross-national study.
Okay, wow, that title is a mouthful.
Yeah, academic papers, right?
Right. But I'm guessing based on your reaction, it's a lot more interesting than it sounds.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This one's a gem.
Awesome. So what's this deep dive all about then?
Well, basically, it's all about how our personalities, like the values we hold dear, and even our moral compass, they can affect our well-being and our ability to bounce back from challenges.
Okay, so resilience, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
And what's super interesting is how all that plays out at work, you know?
For sure. I mean, most of us spend a ton of time at work, so it makes sense that those things would be
Oh,
connected.
totally.
So for this deep dive, we're focusing on two of the big five personality traits, right?
Right. Extroversion and neuroticism.
Okay, so like your classic outgoing types versus the ones who maybe worry a little more.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that this research, it goes beyond just defining those traits.
Oh, in what way?
Well, it looks at how extroversion and neuroticism actually relate to our moral foundations.
Moral foundations. You mean like our sense of right and wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Like things like caring for others, fairness, loyalty, respect for authority,
Okay. I just,
and even things like purity or sanctity.
okay, got it.
Yeah.
So the study found some link between these moral foundations and like whether someone's an extrovert or more neurotic.
Yeah, some pretty surprised links, actually.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. So how did they go about exploring this?
Well, they did two separate studies, the first one in Australia and then the second one in India.
Okay, so two different cultures too. Interesting. So let's start with the Australia study then. How many people did they survey?
195 people for that one.
Okay, 195 Aussies. What did they find?
Well, one of the things they found is that extroversion, that outgoing life of the party personality type, is positively linked to emotional well-being.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess extroverts tend to have a lot of friends and strong social connections, which are good for well-being.
Right. But here's the thing. It's not just about being social. It's about how that extroversion connects to specific moral foundations.
Okay, so it's not just about being the most popular person in the room, it's about what you actually value.
Yeah, you got it. Like they found that extroverts, they tend to prioritize moral foundations like caring for others and fairness.
Interesting. So it's like being outgoing makes you a more ethical person.
Well, it's not quite as simple as that, but it
Uh,
does suggest that extroverts might be more attuned to those moral concerns.
which then influences their well-being.
Exactly. But wait, there's more.
Ooh, a plot twist.
Hmm.
Love it. What else did they find?
So remember those values we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, the study also looked at the role of what are called self-enhancement values,
Hmm.
things like power and achievement. And guess what? They found that these values can actually mediate the relationship between extroversion and well-being.
Okay, hold on. So you're saying that it's not just about being outgoing, but also about how you channel that extroversion through your values. Like if you're outgoing and you're focused on helping others, that leads to well-being. But if you're outgoing and focused on personal gain, maybe not so much.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It seems like the combo of extroversion and specific values creates a pathway to well-being.
Interesting. But I'm guessing it's not the only pathway, right?
Right. The research also looked at universalism.
Okay, so like a broader concern for the welfare of everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For all people and even the planet.
Yeah.
And they found that universalism, it kind of acts like a bridge between extroversion and those individual moral foundations we were talking about.
So someone is outgoing and values universalism that strengthens their commitment to things like caring and fairness.
Precisely. It's like it amplifies those moral concerns, which then leads to greater well-being.
Okay, this is fascinating. So we've got personality values, morals all tangled up together, impacting our sense of well-being.
It is super interesting, right? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, we have a whole other study to dig into.
And yeah, you mentioned they also did a study in India, right?
Yep. And that one goes even deeper into these connections.
Okay, India it is. I'm ready to see what they found there. Okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
India, same research team, but this time they talked to how many people?
257 for this one.
Okay, so a bit bigger group than the Australia study. And they were looking to build on those findings, but with a bit of a twist, right?
Right. So they expanded their scope to include not just well-being, but also resilience, job performance, and job satisfaction.
I see. So they were trying to get a more complete picture of how all these things relate to each other, especially in the workplace.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So what did they find in India? Anything super surprising?
Well, they found that extroversion is a strong predictor of resilience, which isn't too surprising given what we saw in the Australia study.
Right, makes sense.
But here's the interesting part. They found a kind of domino effect where extroversion predicts resilience and then resilience predicts well-being.
Whoa. Okay, so being outgoing leads to greater resilience, which then leads to a higher sense of well-being.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. But does this mean like introverts are just doomed when it comes to resilience?
Not necessarily. I mean, remember, these studies, they focused on extroversion and neuroticism.
Right.
But there are other personality traits too, right?
Right.
And plus, resilience is something that can be developed and strengthened over time.
Okay. That's good to hear. So it's not like you're just stuck with a fixed level of resilience forever.
Right.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that this study also looked at job performance and job satisfaction. Did they find any connection there?
Yeah, they did. They found that resilience is linked to better job performance and greater job satisfaction.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess. People who can handle stress and bounce back from setbacks are probably going to do better at work.
Right. It seems like being able to cope with those challenges is really important for thriving in the workplace.
For sure. This is making me think about my own job, actually. So you're saying if I can boost my resilience, I might actually perform better and enjoy my work more.
It's definitely possible.
That's pretty motivating, actually. Okay, so we talked about extroversion and resilience. What about neuroticism? Did the India study tell us anything about how that fits in?
Yeah, so remember how we were talking about the connection between extroversion and those specific moral foundations?
Yeah.
Well, they found a link between neuroticism and individual moral foundations as well.
That's interesting. I wonder if being more prone to anxiety or worry actually makes you more morally sensitive.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, right? Like, could it be that neuroticism actually enhances your awareness of like potential harms or injustices?
Right, because you're more attuned to those negative emotions, maybe.
Exactly. And the research does suggest that people who are higher in neuroticism, they might approach moral decisions differently.
I see. So maybe they're more cautious or more focused on avoiding negative consequences.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, so it's not like one personality type is inherently more moral than another.
Right.
It's more about how our different personalities might lead us to different ethical considerations.
Exactly. It's all super complex, you know.
Sure, sure. Okay, so we've got these two studies, one in Australia and one in India, and they're both pointing to these connections between personality values, morals, well-being, and even our work experiences. It's a lot to unpack. What would you say is like the key takeaway from all of this? Okay, so we've got all this research from Australia and India about these connections between like personality values, morals, well-being, work, all this stuff. It's a lot. What's the big takeaway here?
I think one of the most important things is just how much power self-awareness can have. You know,
Yeah.
like if we understand our own personality traits, our values, our moral foundations, we can gain some real insight into our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, totally. And then we can use that knowledge to like actually grow and develop as people.
Exactly. Like it's like having a roadmap or something. You know?
Right. Right. Like once you understand how your personality and values affect your reactions and choices, you can start to make more conscious decisions.
And build greater resilience.
Exactly. And what's cool is that this research just focused on extroversion and neuroticism,
Right.
but there are so many other personality traits out there. It makes you wonder how your unique personality might affect your own sense of morality, your values, and ultimately your resilience.
It's like there's a whole universe of possibilities out there for self-discovery.
Right.
Like we've just scratched the surface, you know?
Totally. This is just the starting point, and now it's up to us to go out and explore and experiment and see what works for us.
And remember resilience. It's not a fixed trait. It's a skill you can build and strengthen over time.
So even if you're not naturally like super outgoing, you can still become more resilient.
Absolutely. There are
Yeah.
so many different ways to build resilience and learn to thrive, even when things get tough.
This has been awesome. I mean, it's amazing to see how these different parts of ourselves, like our personality, our values, our morals, they're all connected and play such a big role in how we experience the world.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we're not just passive bystanders in our own lives.
Yeah, right.
We have the power to understand ourselves better and use that knowledge to make real positive changes in our lives.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for walking us through all of this research. It's been super fascinating.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this depth dive into personality values and resilience. Until next time, keep exploring those fascinating connections within yourselves and the world around you.